Tom, thanks a lot for joining today.
Not a problem. And Sandra's already said she's rooting for me, so I've already got one vote across the board.
Sandra, that goes against the email you sent last night. Come on. Well, thanks. So for everybody that's joining, we're going to get underway here, and we might be through this in like 30 minutes. Share some tidbits. It depends on how much trash talking we do here in this grudge match here. But thanks for joining this Collab Talk webinar, the Office 365 Productivity Tips Grudge Match. I guess we should do that with more gravelly voice. Grudge match.
Ready to rumble!
Get ready to rumble! So I'm excited, Tom. We're also going to be doing a similar session, not this same content, but live. It's the SharePoint Saturday Twin Cities happening at the end of October.
Minneapolis Mayhem.
Woohoo! Yeah, so be watching for that as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself really quickly, if it'll progress there. All right, my name is Christian Buckley. I'm the founder and CEO of Collab Talk. As you can see, I'm just reading from the script here. But I've been a SharePoint and Office 365 MVP since 2012, and I've got a blog, a personal blog at Buckley Planet, and where I often share things that I come across, tools that I find useful, which kind of evolved into this. And I know, Tom, you've got a little more serious blog action around productivity, but why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Tom, and I work for Cambia Health Solutions, which is a health insurance firm out here in the Northwest. And as he said, I've actually got a couple blogs. One is SharePoint Duffbert, which hasn't seen a lot of love lately. But the 1 Minute Office Magic actually was an outgrowth of something we started doing internal that we called Spark One, with the tagline of just a minute. So I wanted to do office tips that were something you could read, do, understand, and move on in a minute or less, loosely defined. I would share a couple of them external, and they're like, wow, how can we get on this list? I'm like, you can, it's internal. So we went to IT Unity. IT Unity sort of disintegrated, and I decided to take it with 1 Minute Office Magic and take it under my own control. And that is now where I share all my tips, and there's probably well over 100, and I try to publish there 2 to 3 times a week. It'll end up being a twice-a-week cadence like I do internally, but I've got some old legacy ones that I'm pulling in like every Monday to work through the backlog and get me to where both sides have equal content.
Right, and just so everyone knows too, so Tom and I are talking about doing this type session. We'll mix it up on the titles, a grudge match, the Minneapolis Mayhem, different things, but where we are going head to head and sharing different hints and tips that we've come across that we enjoy. We'll never share in these recorded sessions the same tips twice, so that they become a resource, these recordings, as we make them available out on YouTube and through social media, and we push those things. So I'll talk about that in a minute too. But
I'm Christian.
Yes.
I'm sorry if I get a tip out there that absolutely crushes you in the voting.
No, live is fine. For those events, like I said, it's always the best of. Like in Minneapolis, if you destroy me with one of these 5 rounds, feel free to reuse it. And in the live events, everyone, we're actually, Tom and I won't know what the other one's going to do. Like we kind of got a preview of each other on these slides. Well, I saw Tom's stuff, but that's just because I was slow in finishing with my stuff. But we want to make it fun and interactive with the audience, and that's why at the end of each of these rounds, I'm going to publish a poll, and we're asking you to vote. And look, okay, come on, and especially Sandra, you've got to be fair. If you think I bested Tom in the round, you've got to vote for me. Come on, let's be honest in our opinions here. All right, so let me just really quick introduce Collab Talk. If you're not familiar with, maybe some of you in the SharePoint world are familiar with this. It's actually been around for closing in on 6 years now. But I launched this company in January as an independent research and technical marketing services company. So I work primarily in the Microsoft ecosystem. I do have some non-Microsoft customers, but doing marketing strategy and operational support. And so if you have any needs there, working with a lot of companies in the space, I'd love to talk to you. But let's talk rules of engagement here. Tom, I want you to take this seriously too. I don't want any injuries. You've got to get back to work after this.
Yeah, actually I do.
Yes. So we're going to take turns. We're going through 5 rounds, but we'll take turns. And I've switched it back and forth. Tom will go first, then I'll go first the next round, back and forth. There are no duplicates. So now, because there's slides and I put the deck together, I've seen them, I know that there are no duplicates. But when we do this live, it could be that, you know, his number 2 is mine number 4, and I'm like, dang it, I have to swap out, you know, something so that you'll never get that duplication. But they are across all of the various technologies in Office 365. So you're going to get a wide range of things. The audience then votes after each round. So we have a winner by round, and then we do a tally at the end. Oh yeah, and there is the no hitting below the belt. So yeah, that's just, you know, watch yourself, Tom. So, and then finally we'll have that overall winner based on, you know, 3 of 5 rounds there. And Tom and I will be keeping the tally on these things. So if you do have questions, there is a Q&A capability that's out there. And I'm going to, at the end of this first round, I will launch the poll and let everybody go in and vote on that. Any other questions, any other comments, Tom, before we get started?
No, I'm short, so I don't think you can hit that low. And unfortunately, I may just swing out wildly and happen to hit something that happens to be below your higher than my belt.
All right. Well, I'll let you know if if I'm in pain, if I start crying, you know, you'll know.
Down goes Buckley. Down goes Buckley.
All right. All right. Let's bring it on. Okay. That's why I need the little bell here. Ding, ding, ding. That's weak. All right. Here we go. Tom.
I get to start. Okay.
Yes.
So first tip that I'm starting with is a OneNote tip, and it's on something called Quick Notes, which I had really never known about. I'd kind of seen it in the ribbon bar, but it's like, I'm on to something else. So I start playing around with it, and it's like, this is pretty freaking cool. So if you're in OneNote and you've got the ribbon bar displayed, you'll see over towards the right-hand side a little, almost looks like a yellow sticky note that says New Quick Note, which is very appropriate because it pops up this screen in the middle of your OneNote client, which is called your New Quick Note. And if you look over to the left-hand side in the list of notebooks that you have, you'll also see towards the bottom an entry called Quick Notes. So as you create these Quick Notes, that's where they're going to be stored. So if we go and look at the graphic over on the right, you'll see where I just stuck, this is my OneNote Quick Note. It takes the first line as the title. So as it starts collecting these quick notes out there, that's how you're going to be able to tell which one's which. You can paste graphics, you can do formatted text. It's basically like a yellow sticky note, only with a lot more flexibility in terms of what you can do with it. So you can either do the New Quick Note or you can do the Windows N key combination, which would also work on Windows. So if you flip to the next slide. The other nice thing about this, and what I really like about this in terms of having it on a day-to-day basis, is that in your Quick Notes, you'll see an ellipsis up at the top of the screen. And if you click that ellipsis, that brings down the ribbon bar for that particular Quick Note, and you have that option to always have it on top. So if you have certain types of text that you are always copying and pasting into PowerShell or whatever you want, you can go ahead and take this Quick Note out there, bring it up for the day, pin it to where it's always on top of the screen, and you're always going to have that available to you instead of having to, go flip back over to OneNote that you've got hidden under 14 other screens, or trying to find the yellow sticky note that you have stuck somewhere on your screen. So OneNote stores all that stuff. It gives you the ability to get to it quickly. You can, copy paste. You can email it later if you wanted to. That could be a tip later on. I don't know how far we get with it. But anyway, that's the first tip that I thought was cool. A really cool thing that I had never heard of, but it's becoming more and more of a mainstay for me.
Yeah, I've never used that. That's awesome. The pin to the top is something that I use across all the Office applications now as I'm working with different files, especially now that we're connected to so many different cloud sources and external drives and all this kind of stuff. And to be able to pin things that you're working on actively is fantastic. And so you've got that capability also with these notes. That's pretty cool.
I sort of like it.
Yeah. All right. Here's mine. I also went with a OneNote. So Tom and I are both big fans of OneNote, and I don't know who is, but so I think most people are aware that you can go in and publish your OneNote. You can export it, of course, or you could publish that out to your blog or what have you. What most people don't know, however, is that, and that's what I've kind of got here, but and I was experimenting with this capability, but you can actually go and put a live OneNote page out and through the new OneNote Windows 10 client, and it's a little bit confusing. So if you go in and open up, you'll see here's the desktop. This is my primary OneNote 2016 that I use, but there's also this new OneNote for the Windows 10 client. And Tom, I don't know if you've played with that at all.
I have not.
So it's this, they've kind of reimagined or transformed OneNote for Windows 10 in the cloud. What's cool about this is I can go, so I went in and, as an example, I'm doing these guides out on my blog. So I've only got one published. I'm publishing one or two more this week where it's an aggregation of all of these other community blogs and resources and Microsoft content. And I'm constantly adding and editing these lists for these guides. And I was trying to think, I don't want to have to go into my WordPress and edit, in WordPress, open it up and go and modify that and play with the HTML to get it to look right the way that I want. I said, I really just wanted, the true what you see is what you get WYSIWYG capability of OneNote in my blog. And so you can actually go and publish it through this other version, the Windows 10 version of OneNote. You can publish that page or that note to your blog. So it drops it in there, and it is truly WYSIWYG on your screen of your blog. Now, the downside to it is that you do get like a OneNote header bar with some of the controls there. But what's fantastic about it, like I've got an image here, or like I've got a video. I mean, all of those things that you can publish to your blog, and it becomes immediately, move pictures around, drag and drop it, and it's all visible there on your blog. All you have to do to modify it is go to that tab over in your OneNote. And once I've created it in this OneNote for Windows 10, I can still access this note over in my OneNote 2016. But you can only do this publishing capability through that new Windows 10 client. But if you're looking for a more dynamic way to publish rapidly changing content, then you can definitely use this tip to make it easier to edit that content.
That's cool. I'll have to look into that one because the Spark One content, the same content that you see here, I use OneNote to store it. So I've got like a published content section and a non-published content section and other various sections in there. And so what I do is I write the tip up in OneNote and then I publish it to my SharePoint blog internally. And that works really, really well. And again, like you say, it's nice that you can lay it all out in OneNote, which gives you that WYSIWYG format. And then when I say publish to blog, and I will admit I'm not a fan of the SharePoint blog template.
Sure.
Our Spark One tips, the blog template actually works really well. And so it moves it to Word. I do any little tweaking I need to do in the Word document, and then it's like published, boom, it's up on the SharePoint blog, and it works really well. So I've enjoyed using that, and this sounds like a really interesting option to.
Yeah, I agree. It's good to have options. All right, so I've published the poll question. So if those that are attending, if you'd like to go in and vote, and again, we are tracking these things over time. So we've got a few folks that have the ability to go and vote, but go ahead and do that for round one, and hopefully we'll see people respond. Can we find the polling? Is it available?
Oh, I can see it. If it didn't say I couldn't vote for myself, I could definitely vote for one of us.
That's a nice feature that we can be sitting there, each of us clicking on those. So All right, that's out there. If we don't have anybody voting, come on, people, get engaged. Vote.
It says the poll is up, but we can't submit until the end.
What? All right, sorry, folks. Learning the limitations of the system so maybe we'll have to come back, take a little, jot a note down, and on your on a scrap of paper, or on you can use Tom's suggestion and use a quick note in your OneNote.
Well, it sounds like when you put the poll back up, it may end up retaining what they actually did in the way of voting. So it may actually be gathering like the judge's scorecard.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
Then at the end of the game, we'll go around and pick up all the scorecards into account.
Well, we'll see how it works. All right. Let's jump to the next one, and I'm up first here. So this tagging for status change alert in Skype for Business, Skype Consumer. This is one where, yes, it is the stalking feature that's in Skype. This is the bane of the presence awareness capabilities. And I actually found this feature. I mean, all of us go through this experience at work, certainly, where there are people that are not responding to an email. You see that they're online somewhere, but they're not responding. I was actually having this experience with my oldest son, who is doing his first year in college, and I would see, I was trying to get him to respond to something or other. I don't remember what it was, but by going in and right-clicking on his profile in Skype, and down at the bottom you have tag for status change alerts. And what happens there is that when he would pop online, it would immediately, a little box would show up in my lower right corner and said, hey, Preston is available. And I would just double click, open it up, and be like, hey, Preston, hey, I need to talk to you about this. And he's like, how did you know? I was like, I just got on to check email for like 2 minutes. How did you know I was here? Again, stalking feature. But it's one of those things where, especially if you are in a geographically dispersed organization and working on a project. And so I've done this on projects and customers and partners where I'm trying to get certain things done and just want to be aware, like, when can I connect with these people in real time? So presence awareness is great, but you don't always pay attention to that. But that one little notification that pops up, that little stalker reminder, it's fantastic.
And I will admit, I've never done that to my boss, Sandra, before to find out when she actually got online.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, never. Of course not. No.
Absolutely.
Who
never.
would? Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But it is convenient when I do happen to. Yeah, now you know, Sandra. Now you know. But I'm going to hopefully bail myself out here, because this next tip that I'm going to go with is retrieving deleted emails with the undo feature. And this is actually something that Sandra discovered not too long ago. And it's something that I had never thought of in terms of the use of undo within your Outlook clients. So I have, on many more than one occasion, gone out and I've got my inbox there, and I go to delete something, and I go hover over the X, go to click it, but unfortunately right before I click it, something else comes in new at the top of the inbox, which pushes my cursor to the next item, and I click delete, and it's like, boom, that item's gone. I'm like, oh God, that was one that I was supposed to respond to, and I don't remember.
I had that in the mobile device, Tom. I mean, it's terrible. It's constant.
Yeah, it just sucks big time. So in this case, I click on the X, it disappears. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
All right.
But up in the upper left corner, the undo arrow, back arrow there, actually will undo that delete, which makes perfect sense. And you're kind of going, well, duh. It's like, well, yeah, but had you ever thought to use it that way before? And obviously, neither Sandra or I had ever thought of doing that. So this has really bailed me out a couple times when I've deleted something, because I tend to work a little bit from my inbox. And I delete something that I know I needed to respond to. I go out to my deleted folder, and I can't see or remember right offhand exactly which item that was. A quick undo, so long as you do it as the next action after your delete, basically brings it right back, and you bail yourself out without having to admit that you deleted something and you don't respond timely, which unfortunately, with the way that we're all swamped these days, happens far too often.
Yep. Does it have a limit on how many it will undo? Does it just go back once?
In my testing, it does seem to just be a one-time shot. I know you can go into the various Office programs and decide how deep you want your undos to go. But at least on this one, what I found is undo only seems to go one deep when it's like bringing back things, which is too bad because there's been a couple times where I've like deleted something, typed something else, realized that, I deleted that. And I go to do undo and it brings back the deleted item, but that's like it. And I still need to go out to my delete folder and figure out what it is I need to recover.
Yep. Very cool. All right. Well, I guess the second round of the voting, was it my stalker feature in Skype or Tom's undoing deleted emails? So I don't know. Pause. Think about it. Maybe we should, like just kind of a, I think of like Jeopardy, the music in the background as people, dun 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 dun.
And actually, Christian, this may be the only one that you actually get Sandra's vote on, just because I admitted I do stalk her on occasion.
Well, no, she might, in anger, in protest, not vote for mine because she's upset by that. So.
This is true.
All right.
Once I get off the call and I end up calling her and talk about what we need to end up doing today, I'll find out what she did and we'll go from there.
Yeah. And I should point out, Tom, though, we'll also have the poll here, those that have joined us within the webinar. We also have, unofficial votes that we can tally out in Facebook from the live stream. I think for the purposes of the win for this event, we'll go with the poll. But the tally for the ongoing long-term, maybe we consider including those social votes as well.
Good, because Joel liked my stuff, so I'm all for that.
Okay. Well, let's jump on to round 3. Tom, you're up with your next one.
Which is printing the rows and column numbers on an Excel spreadsheet. So this was one where somebody pinged me. This was probably like a month or two ago. And they said, so I've got this Excel spreadsheet and I'm trying to print it out. And normally when you print out an Excel spreadsheet, you just get the cells that have the data in it. And it does not print the actual ABC across the columns or the 1, 2, 3, 4 down the rows. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, sorry, it doesn't look like you're going to get what you want. And then, of course, I did the, maybe I should Google something, which you'd think that they would learn to do that themselves, but I have somewhat become the, Tom knows everything, we'll ask him. And it's like, no, Tom really doesn't, but Tom knows how to use Google. So I went out and took a look, and what I found is that when you're going out in an Excel spreadsheet and you click page layout in the ribbon bar, mm-hmm. and go to headings and print under the sheet options, then go ahead and go to the next screen. What that does, you'll see in the print preview here, that it actually does include the row numbers and the column letters, which is really cool. For her, this was something that was really critical for what they needed when they printed out the Excel spreadsheet. I don't think it matters for a lot of people, but again, one more time, if that's something that you need for that one-off, this is a great tip, and yeah, you can actually do it. And I think there's one more slide on this one too. Yeah, if you forget to actually do those selections on the ribbon bar and you get down to the print area, if you go to page setup under sheet, there's even a checkbox down there which is for row and column headings. So you can either use the ribbon to get there and actually print your rows and column headings, or you can do it at the time that you're actually doing the print. And that will give you a different way to get that information out via either PDF if you're paper adverse, or actually on paper if you're printing it out for some unknown reason. But I don't print out stuff because I work from home and I try to conserve my own ink.
Right. Well, very cool. I mean, that's something that I've run into. So I've actually discovered that and done that as well. Kind of same, similar path. Like I really, it's annoying. I need to have this information, and rather than populating your spreadsheet with another row at the top and column down the left side, to have that data in it, which doesn't make any sense to use this print option. But all right, and so here's mine, the calendar peek. I was thinking about again, things that I use every day. There's the stalker capability, which I but then there's also this, it's funny. Like I sit here with these, these two big monitors. I've got my phone on a stand in front of me, in between the two monitors. I've got all this data and all this information. I still find myself with multiple tabs open, and especially having email open all day. Look, I conduct a business. I've got a dozen clients. I've got all this activity that's happening. But that little toggle or moving in between my calendar view and email, it's really annoying. And so you have the ability to go in and add this calendar peek, and it actually puts it over on that right panel. And so it's just up from the menu, the ribbon up above. And I know it's a little bit, it's difficult to go and see there, but it's fairly straightforward to go and find that, to add that view, to add that calendar, so that it's all in that single view. And so what's great about that is that when somebody sends me an email and says, hey, what's going on Thursday? Are you able to meet at this time? I just go click on the Thursday there without having to toggle over to the calendar and to that day. I could just click on it, and it shows me my agenda for that day and say, hey, it looks like it's open. Yeah, I've got a spot, right there. So it is been a fantastic way for me to conserve that little alt tab action, which can really bring on that carpal tunnel syndrome. So we want as few clicks as possible. But those of you that are annoyed by the same thing, I know maybe it's my OCD that just I have a serious problem with that. But I don't know, Tom, do you use this feature?
Well, actually, I'm kind of sitting here highly amused and somewhat proud of myself in the fact that looking at your Outlook layout that you have,
yep,
it's pretty much identical to the one I use. Like, dang.
Yep.
I'm following somebody who actually knows what they're doing.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, well, and I'm not going to tell you the other things that I'm doing because they'll be part of future little competitions.
Yeah, I use
the left side as well. But
yeah, I use the same thing over on the right-hand side with the calendar and having those daily appointments. Yep. I also underneath there, I have my tasks for the day.
Oh yeah, yep.
So yeah, I end up having the inbox there on the left, the preview pane on the right, and then the calendar and tasks sitting there on the far right-hand side. And it works really well for me to be able to see what's going on.
Very cool. All right, everyone, time to vote again. So jot down your notes, use the poll. We'll check it at the end. But was it, Tom, was it printing the header and the numbering on an Excel, or was it the calendar peek? So just take a moment, think about it, look deeply inside yourself. That what is the true answer? I want to vote for Tom, but how do I really feel? Would I be honest with myself if my name is Sandra? Would I be honest with myself?
Ooh.
I'm just saying. This is a random name that I selected just out of the ether there. So
purely random.
All right, let's jump to round number 4. I guess I should have like the little the round numbers as well. That would make it highly
have the little avatar come through, walking through the screen with a round board over his head.
Exactly. And I just realized that in the image there's a little blurring there that's unintentional. But I don't know if anybody does this, but one of the fantastic things about OneNote is the autosave capability. And it's become fairly commonplace out there. But I don't know how many times, and the auto recovery, which is like default in different places, which is fantastic. But if you're in an older version of Office, you can go in and autosave in Word. But the one step further, and that's the kind of, I'm sure people know about that, but even if you're in an updated version that's auto-saving, that you can also determine, you could set where it auto-saves, and you can actually auto-save out to the cloud. So, you have the ability to go in and in the save options to save every 5 minutes, every 1 minute, whatever you want to go and do, and save it in the right format there, so that in Word especially, this is where because we've all done it. You've made a ton of edits. Something happens. Usually because if you're moving between multiple documents and formatting gets weird, it's almost like Word sometimes thinks that it's the old front page. Am I wrong, Tom? Adding crap, formatting, and code. Yeah. So it'll crash, it'll lock up, it'll do something. And I don't know, maybe other folks out there don't work in as long of documents and as complex as I do sometimes, and creating white papers and ebooks and things like that. But having that autosave and then saving it out to the cloud. There's this great article that's out there. Of course, we'll make the slides available, folks, as well. But to be able to set up and say, hey, I want it to save out to my OneDrive for Business, or my personal OneDrive, or to some other cloud-based location, wherever you want to sync that on a regular basis, you can do that and never have to worry about losing those versions, those edits again.
I like that. We just finally got everybody migrated over to Office Pro Plus, and OneDrive is kind of our next major focus, and I'm really looking forward to being able to start putting stuff out on OneDrive.
Right. I've moved most of my content that I work on every day just out to that OneDrive, because when especially since I get up and move around, or I'm on the road, and I just want to pick up my laptop and not have to think about, hey, do I need to move files somewhere? And so I'll make sure that that anything that is that I need to have access to and saved is always out in that OneDrive. But likewise, if you're working on things locally, it just makes sense to save that, have that backup out to the cloud in the first place. Just good business practice in general, out to the cloud.
Yeah, the one thing that we try to keep in mind too is, because we're dealing with HIPAA, PHI, PII, the whole bit. We definitely don't want people going, oh, gee, I've got this list of customers that I'm going to put out on Dropbox. Like,
right.
No, you're not. So that's why OneDrive is going to become very important for us.
Exactly.
My tip. So this bugged me for the longest period of time. And keep in mind, I came from a Lotus Notes background. So Outlook has not been I've used this for years type thing. Well, now it's been closer to years. But for the longest time, I'm just living with these little irritations in Outlook because I think you have to. Well, what I found was that after a while, I would start to type in my last name to send something to myself, and I start getting this huge list of contacts that start with Duff. And unfortunately, a couple of them were ones that were one-time tests. I'm like, I'm never going to use this again. How do I figure out how to get rid of these things? Well, what I stumbled across was, if you start typing in and you get this auto lookup list here, if you hover over one of these items, you'll see a delete X over at the far right-hand side. And if you click that, that actually deletes that entry from your auto or your suggestion list. And at that point, it no longer shows up. I'm like, sweet. So I no longer start typing a name and getting people who no longer work here because they've been put in my autocomplete list and they'll never be removed. So now I can trim my list, especially for names like Smith or things that are really common. And this helps me get it cleaned up and keep it trimmed down to a more manageable level. And I love this little tip.
I use that regularly. So that, yeah, for exactly that. Look, people change roles, change jobs, or I just find that look, I'm sending email to their personal when I should be sending to their work, and I'm just going to go and remove that. Just to simplify things for contacts. But yeah, it's a great thing that I wouldn't say I do it every day, but maybe every other day I'm deleting one or two.
Yeah.
Constant. So excellent. Good one. All right. Round 4. Who won the round? Think about it.
Look deep into your soul.
Yes.
And all those names that you'd see deep within your soul, remove those names that no longer need to be there.
Correct. Yeah, that's what we need to do in life, Tom, is sometimes click on the X's and remove those names from our,
Be really careful, Christian, because that's pretty much what I have just done in the last.
I realized as soon as I said it, Tom. Yes, I know. All right, yeah, remove the X's.
I clicked on a few X's and got rid of some names.
Delete, back up.
Oh, gee, make up for lost time, try new things.
Wipe out the system cache there, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, if any of you follow me on Facebook, you'll know that I just finished going through a divorce. And
so he has literally removed the X's. There we go. All right. Let's move forward to the final round. Again, we need to have like music or something. I don't know. I need like a DJ set up here so we can have
the Rocky theme is almost starting to play for that final, Apollo and Rocky are both coming out. They're bloodied, they're battered, they're tired, they can barely lift their arms, but one more round to see who actually knocks out the other and goes home with the championship.
Exactly. All right, here we go. You're up.
Oh, this one's cool. This one's a lot of fun. So you have, if you're creating content and you're trying to fill in, stuff in a Word document for placement, you do the whole Lorem Ipsum thing, which puts all those, random Latin words out there, and life's grand. And you can go out to Google and look up random Lorem Ipsum things, and you can get bacon Ipsum and cupcake Ipsum and all these other ones, which are cute and funny. And I will admit I use them on a regular basis to put filler text into PowerPoint sites. But when you're in Word, you can actually get that Lorem Ipsum feature by default. And this is kind of undocumented. I don't even remember how I stumbled into it. But if you're out in Word and you just type in equal Lorem and then your parentheses and hit enter, it's going to give you a default of 5 paragraphs of text with 3 sentences each, like you see on this image right here. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and go to the next screen. You can also, within the paragraphs there, you can say how many paragraphs do I want, which is your first parameter, comma, how many sentences do I want in each paragraph. So you can figure out, do I just need a couple lines of text to fill in, or do I need like half a page or 3/4 of a page? You put that in there, hit enter, boom, there's all your text. And you didn't have to go out anywhere, find what you needed, fill in the parameters, copy it over, just boom, Word did that for you. And the nice thing is that I'm rarely am able to do, since I'm not a Mac person, is that Macs have that same function in Word for Macs, only you use the equal rand function, and it gives you the same type of option. So again, if you're doing a lot of writing and you need filler, but you just want it really quick without going out and being cute with, the bacon substitutes,
mm-hmm.
the Lorem will give that information to you within the flow of what you're doing within Word.
Very cool. Yeah, I would look suspiciously at an employee if I'm finding it's like, I see that you got creative in each. You've got the cupcake one. I see you've got the bacon one. So you spend a lot of time going out and looking for those pieces to find generic text for formatting purposes. However, that's pretty funny.
If you can put a sample site together and put something out there that makes your potential customer laugh when they look at it, it's well worth the time.
And Sherman just pointed out, his notes over in the chat too, says that the equals rand parentheses also works in Word on Windows. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Cool. Good to know.
Real English words. Nice.
Right. All right, so here is my counter blow for that final. Well, we'll see how much. So this is one I really like. This is another one of those things where sometimes again, OneNote. I use OneNote. I live in OneNote every day. I'm in there doing things. Love the whole turning notes into calendar items or reminders. So as I'm sitting there in a meeting or on a call, and if you're like me, I create lists. And rather than writing it down on stickies, which if you can see around my keyboard, and I've got different Post-it notes and lists and things going on, which I capture with pen and then transcribe up to sometimes to OneNote or into my calendar or a different tool that I'm using. I use the Kanban tool and kind of all those things. However, I love this feature once I discovered this the end of last year, I think, where you've got a bulleted list and occasionally you see as you're taking notes, hey, this is something I need to go and do, where you can go in and right-click on that item and set a flag, a reminder to go and do today, tomorrow, this week, whenever, set a custom date to complete that task and then track that thing. And it'll go and capture that and add it as a calendar item to go and complete. So if you like those to-do lists and those kinds of capture capabilities of different tasks within OneNote and you're a OneNote user, this is a fantastic tool. Tom, you using this one?
Actually, in our little team, Sandra, for those of you who keep wondering who this Sandra is, Sandra Mahan, it's my boss. She hates when I call her my boss. She's discovered a lot of stuff in OneNote because we both used to hate OneNote and we were kind of forced into it. And pretty soon she's like, this is kind of cool. And pretty soon it was like, oh my gosh, neither of us can live without OneNote now. I think she uses this more frequently than I do. I know about it, and I've done it on occasion, but it hasn't quite become part of my normal routine for things that I'm doing.
Right.
Most of what I do a lot of OneNote with is just my daily status or my weekly status reports that I put out there. And even though I use the little to-do tag, basically everything's marked off. It could just be bullet points for all intents and purposes. But
yep.
I know about this great feature. I love it. I just don't use it very often.
And and Sandra's about there being productive. She went and found a link to the bacon Ipsum. So yeah, thanks for that.
This is why I love working with her.
and one other thing I would say for those that are kind of watching the progress around To-Do, the Microsoft ecosystem, and I'm actually hoping it's on my list of things for Ignite to potentially hear about is more of the roadmap around task management. And so I know there's the Microsoft To-Do and that app, and they acquired Wunderlist a couple years ago, and kind of all of that movement. And consolidating those things across Office 365. I'm really hoping that all starts coming together. But within the apps that you use, and for me, again, OneNote is a big deal. This is important. So with that closes out our final round here. It looks like some people are voting, so there is stuff that's coming through on the polling. Please, if you've not yet voted, go in and vote. But this final round, the Lorem Ipsum versus the making calendar items out of notes in OneNote. And give people a moment to go in and do that voting. And I guess we look at, do we have, as we're waiting for people to vote, we've got 11 of 12, one more person out there to vote here. So far it looks like I'm not going to recover from the round one, it's Tom. Round two, it's Tom. I see how this is going. Round three, it's Tom.
Boom!
I won a round, yes!
Oh, okay, yeah, I'd give you number 4, yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you, everybody, with the final voting that's in. I'm going to end the polling there. Overall winner, Tom. Congratulations.
Woo! I beat Buckley!
Yeah.
Down goes Buckley. Down goes Buckley.
But you know what? I like that 3-2. So it's pretty balanced around that. But again, I think, as we in Minneapolis, we'll test this out again. We will not see each other's, tips beforehand. And so I think we'll go in and we'll play our cards. We'll see, how it goes with that live event. So definitely, if you're in the Minneapolis area, the greater region there, definitely come and join us. But as far as this event, Tom, thanks a lot for taking the time.
Oh, this was fun.
And this is a great way to pick up on things, to see some of the examples. And I know that in our live show we're going to be demonstrating a few of them as well. We try to keep it simple here with just screen clips and the slides. I'm going to publish this stuff out to SlideShare, so you'll have this shortly. I'll modify it. I'll make sure that people can see that Tom won. But for other tips, of course, you can find me on Twitter at Buckley Planet and my blog, buckleyplanet.com. And Tom at Duffbert and his oneminuteofficemagic.com website if you want to see. Again, I don't know how many, did you say over 100 that are on there so far?
I think it's well over 100, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and we're going to be adding, I mean, there's so many in different categories that are out there, and we hope to be doing this on a regular basis and capture these and post these out to YouTube as well as the Facebook live streaming there. But with that, I'm just going to, is it letting me start that? No, it's not. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining. And I know we had some people that are still out on Facebook, but we're going to cut it short. And Tom, thanks a lot for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.
This is great. Talk to you all later.
Bye.